There are some Clemson fans up in arms over some comments DJ Uiagalelei made recently to The Athletic about his time at Clemson. And I want to ask you guys, I'm going to share the comments with you specifically, and I want to ask you what I feel about them. If you feel the same way, that like, where's the beef? Old school Wendy slogan, right? Like, what's the problem here? Is DJ saying something that isn't true? Is this sour grapes? Like, I know how this works. You know, like everybody praises everybody as long as they're on the same team, and as long as somebody leaves, it's don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. I got no problem with what DJ Uiagalelei says here to The Athletic. Speaking to Bruce Feldman, said the following: I wanted to go somewhere where the scheme is going to fit me. I wanted to go somewhere where they're going to let me be who I am as a player. Let me play free, and let me go out there and just cut it loose. Just somewhere where I can do what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to do play action, throw a lot of deep balls, deep posts, scheme-wise a little bit more complex than I was doing at Clemson, a little more NFL style. I looked at Will Levis. A lot of people have him going first round because he's a good player, but also because he plays in a pro-style system. It's something different from Clemson, where every player, they recognize you, come up to you, ask you for a picture. So, like, how is Corvallis, Oregon different from being in Clemson? He says at Clemson, essentially, you're a celebrity. Here it is, nice. I just walk around, me and my girlfriend, I go eat. No one knows who I am. It's great. And that's the difference in level of passion, Diesel, East Coast and West Coast. He's in Corvallis, Oregon. It's like they like their team, but they don't live their team. It's a difference between liking and living your team, right?
There's also a lot of Pacific Islanders on the West Coast, especially down in Utah. So I would have to assume there's more Pacific Islanders in Oregon, and you sort of blend right in. And there's a lot of people who look. DJ had so much hype heaped upon him that he never lived up to at Clemson. And maybe he just needs that pressure taken off his shoulders to be at his best.
So if I ask you guys, like, was the problem at Clemson DJ? If you answer yes, I think you're wrong. I think he was part of the problem, but I think the problem was multifactorial. You had DJ in year one had Tony Elliott. DJ in year two had Brandon Streeter. Brandon Streeter never used the middle of the field, which was a problem. How many passes did you see from DJ right to the sideline? Wide receiver screen over and over and over again, or a deep ball. This was also interesting. To summarize that article, Uiagalelei felt Clemson's offensive scheme was way too basic, and the coaching staff didn't structure their scheme to him. He also added the Tigers were calling plays scared when he was under center. Okay. They were calling plays scared when I was under center. They didn't trust me. Folks, those are his feelings. Did you not watch Clemson play and believe that Clemson was calling plays scared? Did it not seem very vanilla, very basic to you? Could you see how a quarterback of DJ Uiagalelei's ilk would want to do something else, would want to do something more? And, you know, it's interesting. I was reading takes from different media personalities about this today, right? Kelly Gramlich is now a college basketball analyst on ESPN and the ACC network. And I've met Kelly a number of times. She is a super friendly person, and I wish her all of the best of well wishes. She's going to have a newborn coming very, very soon. She says, man, this DJ article is quite the read. It surprises me a little bit that a guy who Dabo basically never criticized publicly was willing to be this critical of Clemson and its coaches in such a public way. DJ didn't tell me anything I didn't already know about his experience there. You know, like he wanted to go somewhere where they were going to cut the shackles off him because he had the shackles on him at Clemson. Maybe he had the shackles on him at Clemson, Diesel, because they felt like if they let him loose, they'd lose, right? If they let him loose, he's going to throw a bunch of turnovers.
Well, it's a chicken or the egg situation. DJ's saying they didn't give me interesting plays because they didn't trust me. And Clemson's saying, well, every time we give you interesting plays, something bad happens. So yeah, we don't trust you. The two feed into each other. And like we talked a lot last year and the year before about how South Carolina fans needed to grow up. Clemson fans also need to grow up. There is this pearl clutching among Clemson fans that anytime you say anything, it doesn't even have to be scathingly negative, even remotely negative, or against the overall arching narrative. Dabo knows what he's doing. Dabo's got us in good hands. Dabo's got everything all right. It's going to be okay. Clemson fans lose their minds. And we saw it with the Graham Neff conversation. Well, I just don't believe that Graham would say something like that. Well, so you don't know.
He doesn't believe it, Diesel, because it upsets them.
Right. It upsets you. And this upsets Clemson fans. And, Kelly, I don't know if she's a Clemson alum, Clemson fan, covered them. That's fine. But she's still got a little bit of that. I can't believe DJ would say something like this. Grow up. Learn to accept the criticism. Understand that it's not just everybody trying to rip everybody. Maybe there's some legitimate criticism there, and that's part of the reason why DJ wasn't as successful as he could have been.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, and so I don't ever have a problem with anybody expressing their feelings. Like that is DJ's opinion. He didn't make it personal. Like he didn't really trash anybody. Like this is why I left. This is why I'm happy to be here. I can walk out and about with my girlfriend and I'm largely anonymous. I love that as opposed to being swarmed at Clemson. They're going to allow me to have an open style of play. They're going to take the training wheels off, the shackles off. I felt like they didn't do that at Clemson. So he said, I felt like they called plays scared. Well, maybe Brandon Streeter was calling plays scared. He ended up losing his job after all. Maybe he was calling plays to try to save his job, a job that he ended up losing. And then you have Dabo Swinney coming out and saying, look, we hired Garrett Riley because in my one meeting with him, he said I'd accept the job. Otherwise, we would have kept Brandon Streeter. He had one meeting with Garrett Riley, said Garrett Riley said he would accept the job, and then they chose to move on from Brandon Streeter. That is DJ's perception of what things were at Clemson. So long as he's not saying something about somebody's mama, so long as he's not dropping F-bombs and making it personal, which he didn't do, he is allowed to have his perception. Okay? And he was part of the problem. He was not part of the solution. But he wasn't the only part of the problem. Right? Dabo's lack of use of the transfer portal was part of the problem. Dabo's conservatism was part of the problem. Brandon Streeter not knowing how to use the middle of the field was part of the problem. Play calling in general was part of the problem. And then DJ just largely looking uncomfortable with everything that Clemson wanted to do was part of the problem. I can't figure out for the life of me why we never got the DJ that we saw his freshman year at Notre Dame when Clemson lost in overtime where he threw for over 400 yards. That guy looked like the next in the line of Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. We never saw him again.
Well, they tried to fit DJ into a system that he's not right for rather than adapting the system around his skill set.